Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My guest this week is friend of the show, host of the Grubstakers podcast, Sean McCarthy. After you're done listening to this, go check out Grubstakers, where we discussed Mark Cuban. And have you guys run out of billionaires to talk about? Or because I guess it keeps changing, right?
Yeah, they add like hundreds of new ones every year. So I think we calculated that if we did 2 a week, it would take us something like 20 years to cover everybody, but they're just adding billionaires. So we'll never actually be done.
What happens when a billionaire dies?
Usually the kids get the money.
Okay.
So like you can just say, because like a lot of billionaires are just, they never did anything. But then if you just go back 2 generations, it's like, yeah, they had an armaments factory that used a Jewish child slave labor because their little fingers can get up in the shell casings. And those are the kinds of things you need to work effectively on the Eastern Front.
Yeah, they sold confiscated like candlesticks or something.
Right.
Or we did a fun one on Mark Cuban, and I think he's somebody that people look at and they go like, oh, he's like he's him and Barbara Corcoran. They go, oh, they're those are like the good ones, you know. And I think what we learned was that it was all the reason that he has this money is that he got very lucky, and also that he sexually assaulted a woman, which is it's fun to tell people that who don't know it.
I mean, it is impressive how, despite Me Too and all that bullshit, like the guy, nobody knows that about him. He's just like the Shark Tank guy. And so it's like, if you have a good enough PR firm, you're Me Too immune. You can just go groping everybody you want.
Well, it's really funny because, I mean, I guess we're going to get to this in a little bit, but there was that dictator of the Dominican Republic. I forget his name. There's so many. I'm reading the Devil's Chessboard right now. They throw so many names. I think it was Trujillo, maybe.
Trujillo, yeah.
Yeah. So he was. They described him in the book as having a very voracious sexual appetite. But I just imagine. I don't know. When you hear that, you just imagine someone who at least like knows how to talk to girls. Because what Mark Cuban did, he was drunk. He was like drunk off his ass. He poses for a photo with a woman, and then he slips his hand down her jeans. And then apparently there's some like deposition, there's some court document or whatever, and they're telling him about that this woman is pressing charges, and he's just going, "Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck," you know. Anyway, so here we are. This is episode 394. We're in year 2 of this pandemic. I don't know if anyone listens to podcasts anymore. I'm still cranking these out, though. I'm cranking these out. I'm on Patreon. I'm doing a show on Patreon every single day. If you guys can support me over on Patreon, give me $5. You get a 20-minute show every day. Patreon.com/sitdownpod. I got a little feedback. I got a little feedback email today for the show. My brother emailed me, and I actually appreciate that he did this because I never get feedback. I don't really get feedback from people. I wish I would, I wish I would get constructive feedback from the people in my life. Usually it's just like you forgot to clean the bathroom, or you go on Twitter and it's like you're a faggot and you're a failed comic. Mm-hmm. But it's never like feedback that can help you. So my brother sends me this email and he's like, I think your ADD is interfering with the show. The show is unfocused. Hopefully the people who are still listening will have some opinions on this, but I don't know. The email just kind of hit me at the wrong time because he's like, you should go on meds because I went on meds and it's really good for me. And I don't know. I don't want to do that. I just want to drink coffee. Have you ever struggled with any kind of like ADD or any kind of thing that you need medication for?
Yeah, I was on Paxil for a while because I would get terrible anxiety, but sometimes it would come randomly, but usually it was specifically on like dates or stand-up shows that I thought were like important,
Yeah.
So I would be incapable of eating, or if I had eaten anything that day, I would throw it up.
Really?
So yeah, and I got on Paxil and that fixed that. And but then I got married, and my wife is a radical evangelical. So,
oh, really?
She wanted me to get off all the meds, and I did, and I'm back off Paxil now. But I still like get that shit, like in not as much, but Um, but yeah, no, I recommend Paxil if
Okay.
people are struggling with anxiety. Um,
How would you describe when you go through anxiety? How do you what does it feel like? Because I feel like I might have anxiety, but maybe I have something else. I don't know.
yeah,
You
I
feel like a
mean,
fear?
yeah, just
Okay.
generalized. I mean, I guess I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay.
So just like a general fear. I mean, with me specifically, it kind of manifests as like nausea and kind of a difficulty, like I can feel it coming on, like a panic attack when it is
Hmm.
there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's something where like I kind of know it's kind of a good thing that I'm sort of an also ran podcast and kind of like a D minus list internet personality as
Hmm.
opposed to anything bigger. Cause I know if I was, if I had people following me and photographing me, I would have to get back on SSRIs immediately because you would just go insane if
Hmm.
if there were that many people paying attention to you.
Yeah. You'd be like Kanye.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I have to do that. I don't know. I just feel weird about, I guess I need to go on meds for ADD, but because every time I take every time I like buy a Ritalin off of, I almost said her name, but there's somebody in the comedy community who sells me pills every once in a while. But she'll sell like Adderall or whatever, and every time I take it, I feel normal. I'm like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel. My mind's not all over the place. I don't know, just the idea of like asking a doctor for help. It just feels a little like sus. It just feels like female. It just feels like female traits.
Have you ever been on medication then?
Yeah, I was on antidepressants when I was like 19, and I was also on an ADD medicine too. But I remember being on the ADD medicine and just thinking that I had all this energy and nowhere to like direct it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Um, but anyway, so did you hear about on? So I went on Twitter today and somebody. So I guess Mr. Bean. They interviewed Mr. Bean.
Rowan
Did you hear
Atkinson?
about this, Sean? They interviewed Mr. Bean. Um, they interviewed Mr. Bean about cancel. They interviewed Rowan Atkinson about cancel culture.
Hmm.
But the first tweet I saw it. What's funny to me is sort of like because you're seeing this with COVID and you're seeing it with a lot of other stuff. There is sort of this like there's almost this there's this consensus opinion, right? And I saw somebody be like, "Oh, I love that Mr. Bean is the one who's I love that Mr. Bean is like, oh, you can't do these jokes anymore." But to me, isn't that indicative that if if the guy who like puts a turkey on his head is saying that there's cancel culture and it's like out of control, that's maybe that means it is like if he's worried that it's gone a little too far.
Well, he's been like that. I mean, I shouldn't say like that. He's had that opinion for a little while, like a few years now.
Oh
I
yeah.
think I don't know. Have you ever seen the show Blackadder? It's another
No.
show they did. I like it a lot. It's like a satire. They did 4 seasons, and each one takes place in a different era in British history.
Uh-huh.
And the last one they did, I think, is the best. It takes place in World War One.
Okay.
But they were talking about coming back and doing a 5th season. But I think the idea that they had that people were making fun of online was they wanted to bring it back in like a university and make
Mm.
fun of, politically correct culture and all that.
Okay.
Um, so, and like, I think people like Rowan Atkinson and Jerry Seinfeld, like, I think they're right in a sense, but it's also abstract to them because they have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So, people just say, and they're right, that it doesn't matter if these people get canceled because it's not going to affect them at all. But then they just ignore, whatever truck driver gets fired for doing the OK sign out his window because nobody
Hmm.
told him Twitter decided 3 months ago that this is a white supremacist symbol. So now he has to get shit canned and get back on unemployment for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I guess the thing that bothers me the most is just seeing people's reaction to like whenever there's some kind of social media pariah, like that guy this weekend that starved his daughter. They were like, I don't know why the reaction is like, because we already have this guy we already had evidence of this guy being an asshole yesterday, doing something like kind of shitty. But then people start going back and they start looking at his old tweets. And really, if you want to dig up you just search Jew. You just search the person's name and Jew, and there will be or you search your own name and then you delete all the tweets from 2011 that you.
Yeah, if you search homophobic slurs, there was like a time, or transphobic slurs, like during the Colbert Stewart era, like everybody thought that was fine. So you can just get people dead to rights on transphobia in the 2011 era tweets.
Which makes you wonder what it's going to be in 10 years that you can get people on that we're all just saying.
Fucking your dog is going to be like a protected identity. Though I guess that's the old conservative joke. Well,
no, but there's going to be some kind of technology where like the dogs where the dogs can talk, and then they're going to elect a representative to speak for them. And then one of the dogs is going to be like, it really hurts us when you fuck us. And we're like, who's fucking you? And they're like, half of dog owners are fucking us. So please do not make any jokes about fucking your dog.
Yeah, people who fuck dogs, they like get treated like child molesters in prison. They get like brutally,
Yeah. It's like, look to your left, look to your right. One of those people is a dog fucker. It's either me or my wife. Actually, if you took me and my wife and you said one of them fucks their dog, people probably think it's me. But anyway, I guess what bothers me is you see people's reaction. People bring up these tweets, and it's like, okay, let's say that this is a terrible guy. And we're agreeing that like this isn't cool, but then the reaction to take something that's clearly a joke or isn't meant to be harmful or whatever, and just go like, you have to the people who are associated with him to be like, you have to denounce this. It's just, you see it, I don't know, you see it all the time, and it makes me feel like maybe I gotta get off Twitter or something, because you do see this attitude a lot. And the other side of that coin makes me think like, oh, maybe I'm like old and comedy's passed me by, and we don't bring up anybody's race anymore.
Yeah, no, I think there is. It's like, it's mob psychology on Twitter in general, and I think when you're part of a mob and you're just breaking shit and you're smashing windows and you're getting, a PS5 for free, like that's awesome. That feels great. And so
an actual mob.
Yeah, but Twitter or any social media operates on the same psychological principle, where when you see the bad person online and you participate in destroying their life, like that feels fucking cool. You feel like, I have brought justice to this world. We have found a bad person. We have made their life miserable. We've gotten them fired and all that. And so it's just been this never-ending cycle for almost a decade now, where every day or every week there's some new poor fucker who gets hit exactly the same way.
I mean I also do I mean, I'm someone who I can understand when people are upset, but I do feel like it's I don't know, you just see it a lot. You just see sort of this attitude, and you see I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical of anybody whose reaction is just to be like, yeah, you think that's real, because I think the problem is people are afraid to sort of, I don't know, everything about culture like is not good right now. I think people are afraid to sort of, I don't know, test the line or with the stuff that they're creating. I think people are afraid to kind of try stuff out. I don't know. You're creating an atmosphere. People are afraid to say anything that's not the conventional wisdom of the day.
Well, you're right. And that's because, we're all fucking podcasting and doing all this bullshit and creating a permanent record that will be used whenever we're put on trial on the
Yeah.
internet. So just hundreds or even thousands of hours of yourself just trying to be entertaining or at least, not boring.
Yeah.
And then just one slip up and then that 2-minute clip destroys your life.
Mm-hmm.
But the attitude I've started to have, and I think I've just got to be more forceful about saying this, is that shit has gotten really bad in this country, and people shouldn't be Pollyanna about, oh, the left is like so much more powerful than it was. Like,
Yeah.
you look at the deaths of despair from the 1990s to 2000s to today. About 150,000 people are dying every year of drug or alcohol overdose or suicide, and disproportionately people in these rural areas that lost all their jobs. And then you look at California, where they just passed Prop 22 to legalize this gig economy work model, which destroys the 40-hour work week. You have now just yesterday there's unionized grocery shops in California just firing all their unionized drivers and replacing them with app workers. Like, that's literally the end of the 40-hour work week. This is the shit that we won in the 1930s is going away. And so you just put all that on top of each other and look at how bad shit is getting. And then you look at how much disproportionate energy is directed towards comedians or cultural figures just trying to, because they said something about Chinese people or whatever else they might have done. But I mean, it's just something where, like, I currently have a day job that's pretty hard to get me fired from. So I'll do what I can. But I think it just takes a critical mass of people to just stop participating in what is ultimately snitch culture.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any fixing that anytime soon. It doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's the same people show up too. The same people who have this lust for condemning people. I see them on different threads. I see, like, I've seen certain people a couple times just show up and be like, try this. What I said was bad. So there's this weird reaction from, I think, liberals to be like, it's not real.
Well, that's the thing, is like, it's always either not real or it's good. It's both at the same time. It's a good thing and it's not real.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is something where I think people get sick of, I guess, complaining about cancel culture or whatever. I think if you're serious about doing comedy, you just do comedy and you just ignore it. But you have to accept that there are going to be consequences for doing comedy now. But I think I think the vast majority of people hate this shit. And I think they appreciate comedy that, gives them an outlet. So I think you just have to be willing to do things in service of that. But, also sometimes you're able to stroke your own ego and get a Patreon going and buy some PlayStation games every month.
Yeah. Nice. Let me ask you this. How are you are you finding any joy in the pandemic? We're about to enter what I think is going to probably be a pretty rough winter. Do you have little things in your life? Because I feel like, we just moved, so that kept me busy for a little bit, but now I'm kind of settling in, and I'm just like, what am I going to do what do I have to look forward to? And it's not much. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, like, my wife is not a fan of being in New York City in the winter, so it's like, and she travels all the time, like, and I don't want to travel, but I don't want to be in an argument with my wife, so I'm just like going to airports in the middle of the pandemic.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, like, what am I looking forward to? I don't know.
Yeah, or like, are there any little things that you kind of like find joy in or look forward to? Because I don't know, the winter sucks, and I think the one thing that I did enjoy about it was just being able to, go to a bar and do a set and knock a few whiskeys back and come home. And
I mean, like, Dude, I miss stand-up so much. And like, I never thought I would as much as I
Yeah.
do, because I'd even kind of moved away from it for a bit before this all happened.
Mm.
But, because like, I guess the idea that I had was I'm trying to write something like a book,
Yeah.
just to have some sort of outlet for my creative energies. But then you like learn that you don't have this prose and this vocabulary that is
Yeah.
up to this snuff.
The vocabulary is a big one for me. Anytime I read something or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's the worst. Is I'll write like 3 paragraphs, and I'll be like, yeah, I've used this word 7 times.
Yeah.
One of the
And
2 big words that I know.
You're right.
They're going to be onto me. That I've already used sinecure 5 times in this chapter.
I think
I need another big word.
Right. I think I only started using the word narrative like 2 years ago, and now I use it all the time. And I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but I don't know. Yeah.
I learned atavistic from a video game. I played Metal Gear Solid, and now I have atavistic, in the chamber.
But see, how does that help you? But then a lot of the people you're talking to don't know what that word means.
Right. But that's, you just create a fog of words, and then you can kind of confuse them into thinking that you're smart.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It is true. Like actual good writing is like George Orwell. He doesn't really use that many big words. It's kind of simple and straightforward. But then like sometimes I'll like try to read Christopher Hitchens, who I think is like interesting, but I don't think he's that good of a writer. But he just uses so many big fucking words in his writing that you're just like, wow. I mean, this is like, this is too heavy for me. I'm just like a baby trying to digest a steak here.
Yeah, and you have this idea that you're like going to sit down and read with a dictionary and like build your vocabulary. So you're going to learn it and learn new words. And then you just like, you hear the word that you don't know and you go, I can piece together what that is. Or it's like something you've never heard before and you're like, fuck it, there's no reason to, because nobody I know is going to know what that word is. And they're going to think I'm an asshole. So.
Well, yeah, and because like this idea of like writing a book, which I've like barely started. So, but I've started doing research because it's like a nonfiction thing. But then, I'll do my 9 to 5 and I'll do the podcast or whatever else. And then, it'll be 9 or 10 p.m. and I'm hungry and I'll just have the idea like, oh, I should do some research, or I could just play any video game.
Yeah.
Or I could just watch any show on television instead of like, grappling my brain with a book right now. Yeah,
same. Well, speaking of books, I'm reading a book right now. I don't read. It's not often that I find a book that's not gay, but I'm reading a book right now that's very good. Sean recommended it along with one of my other. Do you have friends that you've made online that you're like on sort of DM terms with?
Yeah, I got a few.
Yeah. It's pretty cool that you can do that. You just start, you start responding, you start following each other. And then, I don't know, it's good. It's a nice way to meet people. But yeah, it's called The Devil's Chessboard. And it's about the history of the CIA. It's about the Dulles brothers. John Foster Dulles was Secretary of State during the Eisenhower administration. And then his brother, Alan Dulles, was director of the CIA. I'm about halfway through the book right now. It's really good. It's really engaging. The audiobook is 25 hours, which I didn't think I would be able to undertake something like that. But that's like, I'm trying to think of that's like 20 episodes of Pete Holmes's podcast. So when you think of it in those terms, I can do that in an afternoon. Anyway, the book's really good. It takes you through the history of the history of the U.S. that you might not know about. But I guess what I wanted to ask you was, what are some of your – and I would recommend the book to anybody if you're tired of listening to podcasts or music. I mean, it's great. But what were some of your takeaways from the book? And keep in mind that I'm about halfway through, so don't – I guess – well, it's nonfiction, but so whatever you want to say.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I need ADD medication right now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, so another thing I've half done is putting together a book recommendation list, because I honestly haven't read that many books, but I've read some, and people do actually hit me up on Twitter semi-regularly for like, hey man, what books do you recommend? Because I just tweet about the CIA and shit all day.
Yeah.
And Devil's Chessboard is the number one that I recommend. It's a book that absolutely changed my outlook, where I think I talked with you about this last time I was on your podcast. Kind of before the pandemic, I really had a different worldview on a lot of things. And I think just being locked in a one-bedroom apartment, and then reading all about the Kennedy assassination, and then, Nixon and the CIA and the deep state and all of that, I think really changed my perspective on everything. And I think it kind of gives you a sense of how evil, like, so much of the structures and the people that underpin the global system are. And there's, really no other way of describing it. But the book itself, I think, is the best history. Like, besides just being a book about Allen Dulles and the CIA, I think it's the best history of the 20th century United States I've ever read. Because I think it's simple enough that once Nazi Germany was defeated, the United States took over the world, and to a lesser extent the Soviet Union. And you have this organization and group of people within the United States, but the Central Intelligence Agency, the Council on Foreign Relations, who are really managing a lot of this from behind the scenes. And the book goes through how they were able to do that, the things that they were involved in and managed, coups in Guatemala, Iran, of course, the Kennedy assassination, and, Nixon and Watergate and all this. And I think it just gives you a sense for this permanent system that kind of still runs the world today, and that there was maybe just a very brief glimmer of something approaching, let's say, democracy, and now today it's just completely gone, and we have the war on terror and all of that.
It's a crazy thing, because it's almost like this system is so ingrained in all of us that it's going to take, like, we got so close to something a little bit better than what we're used to, and it was still like, squashed. It was still, no, you can't have this, because there's so much of that. There's so much of these attitudes that are pervasive in our country. And I guess one of my big takeaways is that Dulles, when he was the director of the CIA, he made $14,000. That was his salary, which is the equivalent to like $130,000 a year. And you can make that picking up trash, or you can learn a trade or something. I mean, I think I know like woodworkers who can make that much money.
I calculated it on Twitter. I posted it. Nobody believed me, but because my dad was loading airline baggage in the 80s with the Teamsters unions, he was making inflation adjusted something like $150,000 a year with like a high school degree. It's just like, picking up fucking bags and loading them and getting the plane ready for takeoff. $150,000, and you make minimum wage doing that today.
It's fucking really bizarre. Yeah. It's really bizarre, and we've gone so far down this road where you go, well, how do we ever get back to my piece of shit father sitting behind a desk and doing no work, not doing any work, or my mom going to college for $300 a semester, which I don't know what that is adjusted for inflation, but it's not what it is now. I mean, you could work yourself through school. So yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think Devil's Chessboard is actually kind of the best introduction to all this, because then you have to supplement it with a few other things, but you do have this period that, all our parents got to live through and experience of, the New Deal consensus, where you had a Senate in 1933 in this country that passed a 30-hour work week. It didn't become law, but you just imagine the Senate today, 60-some members saying, 30 hours a week. That's how long you have to work. You had, like you were mentioning, cheap college, civilian conservation corps, so that if you were a young man, you didn't have work, you could go create all these nature trails that still exist today. You know, if you go hiking, that was all built in the 30s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. So you just have all these things.
That was FDR.
Yeah. And you just have all these things. And then kind of what happens with the CIA, I do recommend also Cantbot is another poster on Twitter, but he also has a great podcast called Pseudodoxology, I believe. And he and his partner Ed Berg have gone through some of these things about how if you trace the CIA back, what you actually find is that this kind of comes from John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. They set up these foundations around the turn of the century, which are ostensibly to, you know, give out their wealth and give back. And this is how it's all described today, you know, charity projects and this kind of shit. But what these foundations really ended up doing was giving out money to, you know, journalists and researchers and just whoever else who favored their agenda and their own power. And also they set up their own corporate intelligence networks because, you know, Rockefeller Standard Oil, it controlled something like 75 or even 90% of global oil supply at one point.
I mean, if they're going to do this much, maybe they should enslave us. That's the thought I have sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? Hey, you're the one getting up early in the morning making me a fucking slave.
Right.
So I don't know. I got LaCroix. I'm not that much of a slave.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing is we have this system of, you know, wage slavery with all the ideological justifications. Sorry, I don't want to be too much of a bore, you know, but the thing is, these corporate intelligence networks would basically become the CIA, the people doing the research for John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil. And, you know, these people who would like be this elite set at Yale and Harvard, would then go on to be the OSS and then the CIA. Yeah. And then I kind of like the picture that I've developed of all this is it culminates domestically in the Kennedy assassination, where the guy is just kind of a basic New Deal liberal who doesn't want to do a genocide in Indonesia and Cambodia, and he gets clipped. And then you go to Nixon, who's, you know, he's willing to do a genocide in Cambodia, but actually domestically, he wants to do price controls. He wants to set up an industrial policy. He kind of wants long-term planning that puts the market in second place and doesn't just make us all slaves to this thing. And so you get Watergate, which I think is another interesting rabbit hole where they kind of get rid of him. And then this brings us into the neoliberal era where you have it's kind of a foreign policy coup and then a domestic coup. And now you just have this system where the market is worshipped as a god and everything that, you know, feeds the market is considered sacrosanct. Unless, of course, you know, it's a large corporate failure, then they have to be intervened and bailed out.
When was that, like the 70s and 80s?
Yeah. Like starts with Jimmy Carter, who deregulates the airlines and the trucking, and then puts Paul Volcker in the Fed, who they jack up the interest rates and really wipe out a lot of people and kind of break the back of unions in this country. And then that accelerates under Reagan in the 80s, and then it's solidified at Clinton in the 90s. But, you know, I mean, kind of like what I took away from Devil's Chessboard is I've kind of like, sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a bit.
No, you're not. Go ahead. Good.
I got way too into like the Kennedy assassination, and then that was all I was reading about. And then I was reading about Nixon. And what really fucked me up about it is that I used to read history as a way to escape from modern politics, you know, like you just want to get away from the day-to-day news. You read about World War II, you read about, you know, Kennedy or whatever was happening. But kind of what changed after I read Devil's Chessboard was that I realized the entire history of post-World War II US, especially up through Kennedy, that's modern history. Everything that happened there is still what we're living with today, where you just had, you know, a New Deal liberal and his brother who were broadly popular, who were about to establish a popular mandate to kind of turn back these forces of reaction, and they were fucking assassinated, and the people who did it got away with it, and they won, and they were able to entrench this sort of system where nobody dares challenge the Central Intelligence Agency, the national security state, corporate power. So
Yeah.
now we live under this kind of inverted totalitarianism where you have basic rights, sort of, but nobody can challenge corporate power or do anything about any of this.
Yeah, it's funny. My brother's girlfriend's sister, or sorry, my brother's girlfriend's father is this guy who's he's very well informed. He's a video editor, and we probably disagree on a lot of stuff because he's probably more liberal than I am. But we had lunch one day, and he was talking about. He goes, "What do you think of AOC?" And I was like, "Oh, I like her." And he was like, "I think they're gonna pop her." Like it was just so like he just said it so casually that like she's gonna. So it's just a weird thing where, yeah, they make an example of a few of these people, a few of these leaders. You have every sort of influential leader in the 60s get assassinated. So why would anybody want to challenge? Like, it's not cool to, I don't know. Do we need to normalize it just being cool to die for something? Like, do we need to be like, bring back like samurai culture and just tell kids that it's cool to kill yourself?
No,
it's cool to be a suicide bomber.
It's cool to die if you're making SoundCloud trap music.
Yeah.
Just to die on fentanyl. That's the only cool way to die now in this culture.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing that I think is on a lot of people's minds, where you even had with the Bernie campaign, you know, when he had that heart attack, I think a lot of people were like, oh shit. Because it's just always kind of in the back of your mind. I guess they only had to kill a couple of them to make anybody afraid of challenging the system, because nobody wants to get killed.
Right. Well, that's the history of the 60s is, Martin Luther King, JFK, RFK, Walter Reuther, leader of the United Auto Workers, Malcolm X, all five of the largest revolutionary figures in the 1960s were all assassinated, and all of this was just totally random. Lone gunman, random coincidence.
Right.
One guy got up this morning in every single case, never spoke to anybody about what they were going to do, and just decided to take care of this themselves. Five times in a row this happens, and that's just life. It's just the nature of the world. A lot of random coincidences went into making sure that happened.
Yeah, there's a part in the book where, like, I guess somebody asked Dulles about, because they were having problems with the president of Egypt, and someone asked Alan Dulles, they were like, don't you have an assassin? And he puffed on his pipe, and he was like, well, to assassinate, I don't know what the guy talked like or anything, but he was like, well, to assassinate someone, you can't have a white guy kill him. You got to find some lunatic somewhere. It would be very difficult. So I guess that's the other thing too, when you think about, I mean, we did a whole episode on assassinations a while ago, but when you think about, like, assassinations are a lot more sloppy than they are in the movies, I guess. That's the only kind of take that I have, is that you got to find somebody. You're not going to find someone who's going to you're not going to find some hot guy in a silk shirt who's going to fly to, Egypt and do a sniper shot on somebody and take out a leader. It's going to be, you got to find some lunatic or something.
Right. Well, the CIA wrote a whole manual on this, but there's multiple different ways of doing it. But then, because the thing is, like, once you start reading about Kennedy assassination or Devil's Chessboard or any of this shit, you'll get led down a bunch of other rabbit holes into like MK Ultra and all this. And some of these assassinations where, like, to believe that Robert F. Kennedy's assassination was a conspiracy, which I do, but that requires you to believe that Sirhan Sirhan was an MK Ultra experiment victim.
Right.
Which
I think he was.
Right. Which I believe, but it does require some leap of faith, because you have to believe that it is possible to, like, dose somebody who has schizophrenic or mental illness tendencies with a bunch of LSD and other drugs, and then suggest things to them, and eventually you're able to get them to shoot a gun at the president in order to create a distraction so that a security guard can, or shoot a gun at a senator to create a distraction so that his security guard can pop him in the head. Right. And then you have, like, cases like that, like that fucking Deutsche Bank judge who got her son shot at by some random MRA attorney who then
in
killed
Jersey.
himself.
Yeah.
And then there's like another case that's very weird. Fuck, I want to look it
That's
up.
what was funny too, because you saw after that woman's son got killed, you saw people on Twitter be like, "This is what happens when you live in a world with misogyny in it." You know, like this boy was a victim of misogyny,
Right.
Because they pinned it on some MRA lawyer who sued a bar for having ladies' night or something.
Right. And there's like another very weird case called the guy was named Nicholas Deek. He was an
Mm-hmm.
American banker who was shot to death in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like CIA connected banker, like CIA connected up to the gills. He was shot to death by literally a homeless schizophrenic woman who got on a cross country bus with a gun, specifically went to his office and shot him and his secretary to death. And, you know, then if you look into that, you find, oh yeah, she might have had an appointment with another CIA MK Ultra linked psychiatrist at some point.
Right.
So it's just cases like that that make you fucking crazy.
Yeah, people hear that and they go, "What a tragedy."
Right. Yeah. This random homeless woman just knew to go directly to the CIA connected banker. But, you know, again, another one of these random coincidences that make the world so fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know I guess if you start thinking about that, you just take yourself down this weird rabbit hole where I remember I have a friend who's, the night that Osama bin Laden was killed, we were at the comic strip and we were waiting to do late night. And, they announced on the news that bin Laden was killed and he cried. And I always thought it was like, I mean, I just can't tell that story and not like laugh. I just think it's funny. Mm-hmm. But you almost feel like I wish I lived in that guy's world where this is like a good thing, you know, where everything happens. All these institutions are, you know, they kind of exist as they should. And we got the bad guy.
Well, that's the funny thing is you would imagine killing bin Laden. That would be like, well, time to wrap things up, bring all those troops home, wind down this war on terror. But no, actually,
that must be what he thought. That must be what he thought when he was like weeping.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what a normal person would think. But kind of what we've realized is that all of these things are so profitable for a small group of connected individuals that they're never going to end and will only ever escalate. And then just the fact that we're killing so many fucking people overseas who are innocent, you know, shooting pregnant women and blowing up 14-year-olds and killing pine nut farmers, all those people who have families who want revenge. So then it's like, yeah, we got the next crop and racket can continue forever.
Do you think that's by design that they're doing that or they just don't care?
I think, I think initially, like, I mean, man, my opinion on all these things has changed a lot to the point where I feel like I've sort of gotten a little disconnected from reality. And part of that is just quarantine. But, you know, like, so I think there was if you look at Project for a New American Century, there was some sort of plan to go into Afghanistan, go into Iraq, and set up this area in the Middle East. And I think what's sort of happened is naturally along the way, they've realized how profitable this is for connected defense contractors and Wall Street and everyone. So they just want to keep it going forever.
Yeah. I guess there's some kind of like, because I do want to talk about the ideas that the propaganda machine will sell you, and the ideas that I think all Americans have when you're young. Because when you're young, you never really you just don't learn anything about big business or the connection between business and government, and how big these things are and how profitable they are for, like you said, a small group of people. It's always a small group of people. It's always in Iran when they did the coup in 1953. It's for whoever owned that oil company, and they were able to continue. It's never for the but they somehow convince you that it's for the greater good. Like, we're supposed to be over there, we're supposed to be involved in these wars, but if you're not really looking for the information, you'll never find it.
Right. And, you know, the ideological justification changes with the generations, where you look at the original colonialism and it was like white man's burden. We've got to civilize these people and teach them how to use soap.
Yeah.
And, all this shit. Whereas now it's like, oh, we have to protect the women of Afghanistan from the Taliban. We have a responsibility to protect women's rights by being over there. And, all this kind of modern id pol shit is used primarily to justify the U.S. security state and defend it and defend the status quo in this country. Like how they started talking about reparations as soon as Bernie started running in 2016 and then stopped as soon as he lost in 2020. The idea is like, let's just divide people up so that there's no universal material demands. And there's a lot of different ideological justifications, but it all has the same funding source, really.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't be against reparations, though.
It's a fine idea. It's just the problem is once you start dividing things on race, who decides who gets what, as opposed to if you just do a universal materialist demand, you'll have
imagine
the same
Rachel
effect.
Dolezal gets reparations.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if she does, respect,
Right. No, if they do reparations,
hustle never dies.
If they do reparations, just buy stock and spray tan, because a bunch of people are going to be going out and getting little $15 cans and trying to get those checks.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's really weird, but I guess they have to prove some kind of, I don't know how they would do it. They'd probably get like those forceps and put them in your nose and measure the width of your nose or something to see if you can get the money.
Well, and that's the other problem is like, how do you racially quantify the population to send out the checks? And will that have any negative repercussions going down the line?
All right. And then you're going to see Italians be like, actually, we've been black the whole time. Finally being proud of their African heritage.
I think in the abstract, it's a fine idea. But I think just like in terms of making sure things happen, I think you have to have a universal targeting of poverty, material redistribution that just benefits people based on their wealth and income level, which will have mostly the same effect, but won't kind of pit white America against black America. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that'll never happen, though.
What do you mean, universal redistribution?
I mean, nobody really talks about class.
Yeah, and that's the thing I've kind of run into, where people on both, the white nationalist or whatever you want to call it, right, and the id pol left will say, like, yeah, these racial people do identify by their race. They do. Yeah. And I think actually the project in terms of getting anything done is to teach people to not identify by their race, to say that, if you're a white guy and you have a black coworker, you have more in common with him than you do with Bill Gates. And your black coworker has more in common with you than he does with Denzel Washington or Michael Jordan or whoever. It's just like you have far more in common with people of your same class than you do with anybody of your identity group.
But it's also funny when you look at American history and you'll see white, laborers and black laborers trying to organize. And then the boss is like, well, the white guys can have that, but you're like better than them,
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. World's fucked up. What are some of your other, I guess one of my other takeaways from the book is thinking about, I just think about the things that have motivated me in life, and I'm not motivated by amassing like institutional power. I don't. It's hard for me to sort of wrap my head around these people where I guess they just want. What are they motivated by? They want the U.S. to be some kind of superpower, or they want like world. They want to dominate the world. They want to feel like they're on top. Is that it? Is that all of it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that Alexander the Great wept because he had no lands left to conquer feeling or whatever. I mean, that, kind of when I started stand-up, that was part of what motivated me, was this fantasy of being rich and powerful, or not necessarily powerful, but this idea that would make you important or whatever else. Yeah. And then you go into it and you realize there's a lot of compromises involved in that road. And some people wanted enough to make the compromises that come with that. And you know, when you're motivated by power, I imagine you can live with a lot, do a lot, to just kind of reach that end goal, which may or may not be worth it to you when you get there.
But what is the joy of that? Were they ever like, okay, cool, we did it? Because it seems like you never really get there, but then also, I don't know, you're just not. It's not. I don't understand. I guess I don't understand what would motivate somebody in that way. What did he? Because I think about the things that motivate me. It's like, well, I want, like, you know, some stability in a career, and I want to be liked and respected by people. And I failed in a lot of ways, but for these guys, it's just like, we're going to work for a corporate law firm, and then we're going to go into intelligence, and then we're going to like, do they make money? I mean, they must make money, right?
Yeah.
Doing
I mean,
that.
You know, I imagine it's like different motivations for different people.
Yeah. Cause it doesn't even seem like they like money that much.
Right.
You know, they're not like a Persian family where, you know, they show off their wealth because they just love spending money.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, oh, I'm going to live in my townhouse and smoke my pipe. And I'm going to have leaders lined up, and I'm going to have peasants get their fucking heads cut off. I'm going to install dictators that do genocides in their country. And that feels good.
Yeah, I mean, like, the book kind of goes through with Dulles specifically. He never really had like that much money. Obviously, he was, you know, comfortable, but he wasn't rich.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like he just wanted to be the man who solved problems. Like, he was kind of this interlink between business and government.
Right.
Where when, you know, people had a problem with their banana farm in Colombia, they call up Alan Dulles and he's going to handle it for you. And I think, I guess people, you know, again, I don't know his motivation specifically, but for some people, it's just the idea that this world, that you can actually, with the short time you have on Earth, you can change this world, and you can be the person who makes decisions that millions of people end up living with. And, you know, other people are just ugly and they want to bang. So that's another motivating factor.
Right. And I guess that gives you some sense of satisfaction that you did this. I mean, did they feel, because when you look at the history of United States foreign policy, usually what ends up happening is there's some democratically elected, you know, leftist or reformer leader. That person gets they orchestrate this coup to overthrow them, and then they install some military dictator who ends up butchering and massacring any kind of political opposition. It took me this long in my life to sort of connect all those dots. I'm just learning about this now, how those systems really, really work. Because, like you said, some guy has a fucking banana farm. And his workers want, you know, the equivalent of $20 an hour instead of $4 an hour, whatever it is. And you call up Alan Dulles and you go, can we have this guy who's the president, who's just the nerdy president of this country, just get machine gun with his family?
Right.
So my kid can take UCB classes or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like every country, that's not every, but most of the countries that we think about when we think of, you know, fucked up, dangerous places today, it's because of people like Dulles. Yeah. And all these decisions they made, you know, 40 or 50 or however many years ago. Right. Just created this situation that's ongoing to this day. Right. Where it's like, yeah, there was a labor movement that was a threat to Nelson Rockefeller. So we got a military guy to rape a bunch of nuns and make it a nightmare to live there. And now they all want to live here. And we have to build a wall and we have to kill everybody in this caravan before they can get over the moat.
We have to rip their fucking kids away when they try to come here to clean toilets.
Exactly.
It's so evil that it's so evil that it doesn't feel real. It doesn't, it's hard. It's a hard thing to face. and I was watching a little video about the coup well, it was about the hostage crisis in Iran, which happened during, I guess, the Islamic Revolution. But there's a guy who's clearly Italian, by the way. I mean, he looks very Italian, and he's holding a sign that says, "Deport all Iranians, get out of my country." And it's like, yeah, he thinks that Iranians are bad, because if you sat him down and told him what happened in that country, what we did in that country, he just wouldn't like go to work ever again, you know?
Well, and you're getting this same thing now where they're trying to whip up all this hatred with China and Russia. And whatever you think about, whatever you think about the governments there, if you're living in the United States, they're not your enemy. Your enemy is like right here in New York and DC. Like the people who have been fucking you and your family over are right here. You don't need to worry about President Xi or Putin.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's always a little, and I don't know enough about that. Well, I do know that you see people yelling about Russia and Putin a lot, but somebody shared a clip recently. It was like an SNL clip, and they were sort of, it seemed pretty benign. That's a big word that I started using 2 years ago.
Good,
it seemed pretty benign.
It's no sinecure, but it's not bad.
What's that?
It's no sinecure, but it's not bad.
Is that the same word for benign?
No. That's the big word I know.
Wait, let me look up synonyms for benign. Ooh, now we're playing. Now that's pay thesaurus. You got to pay for synonyms for benign.
That'd be a good business model.
Yeah. Benevolent, favorable, friendly, gentle, mild, amiable, beneficent. I know all these words. Complacent. It's spelled weird though. Congenial, generous, good-hearted, gracious. Okay. So, yeah, I see people get offended whenever like you said, the people are whipping up hatred against China. But then there's another part of you that goes like, well, they are doing a genocide, right? So, but I guess who cares? I don't know. I don't fucking know, Sean.
It's not really who cares. It's just what the fuck can we do about it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we should withdraw from the World Trade Organization and kind of put tariffs on everybody so that we're not just taking slave labor goods from China, which has been really the problem that's created all these deaths of despair. But it's like the United States and China entered permanent normal trade relations in 2000. And since then, deaths of despair have exploded. In just 7 years, 20% of all U.S. manufacturing jobs disappeared. This is 2000 to 2007, before the recession. 20% of all manufacturing just gone. So it's like, who do you blame for that? Do you blame the people in charge of your country who signed that deal? Or do you blame the other country who suckered them into that deal or paid them off into that deal? So, ultimately it's just, I don't want a fucking nuclear war with China. And it's up to people who live there to figure things out themselves. We're not going to nuke them to freedom.
Right. Yeah, I don't want a nuclear war with China either. Cool. Well, I guess any final thoughts? The whole chapter about the coup in Iran was really interesting. I mean, I always knew sort of the basic story of it, or the bullet points, but I didn't. The book goes into really good detail about, like, because you hear the word coup all the time, but you have a vague understanding of what it is. Where they're toppling a government. Then when you get into the details of how do they do that? How do they pull off a coup? It would almost be the equivalent of, imagine like a more powerful country than us, or let's say a race of aliens. Like, it would be like a race of aliens, like giving weapons to the Proud Boys or something and letting Trump stay in. Right?
Yeah, basically that sounds about
and not
right.
even spending that much money on it. Being like, oh yeah, this is the toy that my kid plays with. It's like a vaporizer.
Well, that's how the British kept their empire going for so many hundreds of years. Just go into a country and find whatever, minority, and then just give them a bunch of guns and money and weapons. And now they're like 10 or 20% of the country. You put them in charge. So the vast majority of the people, hate them. And if you're overthrown, then they're going to get killed. So now they're loyal to you.
Right. Well, world's fucked up. Any final thoughts or anything else you wanted that we didn't cover?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is kind of like I said, I went down this Kennedy with Devil's Chessboard, which I do recommend a lot. I went down that Kennedy rabbit hole and then into Nixon with some other materials, and I got very kind of despairing about modern history, and I've been trying to go back and read about. Now my new thing is Rome. I'm reading about Rome again to just try to get out of the modern era.
Right, that was long ago enough. I was trying to tell Deb about some of this stuff, and she was like, "I think you should read happy books." It's like, all right, well, buy me a fucking happy. Buy me the history of lollipops. The problem though is if it's American history, it's just always black people being fucked over, no matter what history it is. I mean, it could be like the history of caramel, and you find that they were used to, their tongues were used to see if the caramel was hot enough or something.
There's if you look at the New Deal, but you're right, that has an element of black people being fucked over, but it's small enough that it's like a C plot, so you can kind of enjoy the overall story. But that's, I think that and, Lincoln are the only real inspiring, or I shouldn't say the only, but some of the inspiring stories in American history. But with regards to Rome, I think what you kind of notice is this all follows the same pattern throughout history, where the Gracchus brothers were two politicians in Rome in the late Roman Republic who were assassinated because what Rome did was, as they were expanding, the soldiers were going out on farther and farther away campaigns, so their farms were falling into disrepair, and the rich people were buying up their land and making them impoverished. So more and more land was falling into fewer and fewer hands. The Gracchi brothers wanted to do land redistribution, and they were both murdered for it. And you see a bit of a parallel in the Kennedy brothers being murdered there. But kind of what you see again and again is in Chile with Allende and the coup there, he wanted to do land redistribution. So you just see this this is what the crux of all history is. It's this material redistribution, and it's always going to be violently fought against, and it's always going to have this kind of ideological fog to justify it, because power justifies itself. So you just see this kind of pattern repeating again and again in every single era. And I guess there is some comfort to that these laws are pretty consistent, and eventually things will move in some direction, not necessarily a great one, but I don't think this status quo we're living through can hold for that much longer.
All right, let me ask you this before we wrap up. So I guess me and you have relatively comfortable lives compared to somebody in another who's impoverished in another country, like the poorest people. So think of something that you like. Imagine if there was some world government, and then they were like, Mike and Sean, we're going to take away your MacBook to give it to so that people in Sudan can have running water and toilet paper. We'd be like, I'm going to fucking kill you. Fuck you. Do you think, or do you think we'd part with our laptops?
It is a good question. Because I think a lot of people would react violently. But, I think there is something to the minimalist lifestyle. I think people would be quite a bit happier if they're just if we still had the iPhone 4, but there weren't any homeless people, they all had houses. I think people would just be generally happier, and fewer anxiety medications would be necessary.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I mean, I could probably dip into savings and buy another laptop, but I think part of me would be like, well, you do this, then what are you going to take from me tomorrow? You're going to take my dog? You're going to,
Yeah. As long as they stay away from the Hitman video game series. If they go near that, then I've got a suicide vest a politician.
That's a great series. Did they have it? Is there a new installment in that?
There's supposed to be a new one, I think, later this month. I don't know if it got delayed. Might be late January, early February.
I played the demo 2 years ago, and that game is still so fun.
It's so great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Sean. I appreciate it. Check out Sean's podcast, Grubstakers. Follow him on Twitter, where he's always getting in trouble. He's Twitter's bad boy. He's always stirring up shit. It's fun. It's fun. I like following you because sometimes you'll see some of Sean's tweets and you go, all right, this is gonna go somewhere. Yeah. This is gonna ruffle some feathers. So but yeah, that's a good thing. Check out Grubstakers, and I'm gonna stop the recording, but stay on the line.
All right.
Stay on the line, and then we'll both say our favorite racial slur. All right. Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.